You don't wake up one day and suddenly feel like being disciplined. That's not how it works. Most people are waiting for motivation like it's going to show up at their door, knock gently, and change their life for them. It won't. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner your life starts to shift. Because the truth is simple. Your life is either being shaped by your discipline or destroyed by your lack of it. There is no neutral ground. Every choice you make is either building the future you want or reinforcing the life you're stuck in. You say you want success, but you negotiate with your alarm every morning. You say you want a better body, but you skip the workout when you don't feel like it. You say you want financial freedom, but you waste hours on things that don't move your life forward. And slowly, without noticing, your habits start deciding your future for you. This is the moment where most people get uncomfortable because responsibility feels heavy. But here's the shift you need to make. Responsibility is not a punishment, it's power. The moment you accept full responsibility for your actions, excuses start losing their grip on you. No more blaming time. No more blaming circumstances. No more waiting for the right mood. The right mood is built through action. Discipline is not about feeling ready. It's about doing it anyway. There will be days when you feel tired, distracted, unmotivated, and doubtful. That's normal. What matters is what you do in those moments, because your life is not shaped on your best day. It is shaped on your weakest days when you choose to keep going instead of giving up. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you reinforce weakness. Every time you choose effort over excuses, you build strength. And strength over time becomes your identity. You don't need a new life overnight. You need small decisions repeated with consistency. Wake up when you said you would. Do the work even when no one is watching. Keep promises to yourself, especially the small ones, because that's where discipline is built. Nobody is coming to save you. No one is going to do the reps for you. No one is going to study for you. No one is going to build your dream life while you scroll through distractions. It's on you. And that might sound harsh, but it's actually freeing. Because if it's on you, it's also in your control. You are not stuck. You are not stuck. You are not powerless. You are simply trained by your habits. And habits can be changed. Start with one decision today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. Do something that your future self will thank you for, even if it's uncomfortable right now. That discomfort is the price of growth. Because one day you will look back at your life and realize it didn't change in one big moment. It changed in thousands of small moments where you either gave up or stayed disciplined. And the version of you that wins, the version that succeeds, the version that is proud of their life is built in those quiet moments where no one is clapping, no one is watching, and no one is forcing you, except you. Take control now, not later, now. Discipline is not something that depends on how motivated you feel in a given moment. Motivation is unstable. It rises and falls depending on your mood, your environment, your sleep, your stress levels, and even the smallest distractions around you. If you build your life on motivation, you are essentially building it on something that cannot be trusted. There will be days when you feel excited and full of energy, and on those days, everything feels possible. You make plans, you set goals, and you imagine a better version of yourself. But there will also be days when you feel drained, distracted, or emotionally low, and on those days, motivation disappears completely. If you depend on motivation, those are the days where everything collapses. Discipline, however, is different. Discipline is what keeps you moving when your feelings stop cooperating. It is the ability to act based on commitment rather than emotion. It is choosing to do what needs to be done even when your mind is trying to convince you otherwise. Most people misunderstand discipline as something harsh or restrictive. But in reality, discipline is freedom in disguise. It frees you from being controlled by your moods. It frees you from the cycle of starting and stopping, feeling inspired and then giving up. When you are disciplined, you are no longer negotiating with yourself every hour of the day. You already decided what matters, and now you are simply executing that decision regardless of how you feel in the moment. Think about how many times people delay important tasks because they are not in the mood. The mood never arrives at the right time. The perfect feeling never shows up consistently. If you wait for it, you end up delaying your growth endlessly. Discipline removes that delay. It replaces "I will do it when I feel ready" with "I will do it because it needs to be done." This shift might sound small, but it changes everything about how a person lives. Because once you stop waiting for motivation, you start building momentum. And momentum creates results that motivation alone could never achieve. Every successful person eventually learns this truth. They don't rely on feeling inspired every day. They rely on systems, habits, and routines that carry them forward even on difficult days. They understand that progress is not emotional, it is structural. It is built through repetition, through consistency, through doing the same necessary actions over and over again until they become part of who you are. Discipline is what allows someone to train when they are tired, to study when they are distracted, to work when they would rather rest, and to keep going when there is no immediate reward. It is not about being perfect. It is about being consistent. Even on days when performance is not its best, discipline ensures that you still show up. And showing up is often the difference between success and stagnation. Over time, disciplined actions compound. What starts as effort eventually becomes habit, and what becomes habit eventually becomes identity. You stop thinking of yourself as someone trying to be productive or trying to improve. And instead, you become someone who simply is consistent, someone who follows through, someone who does what is required without constant internal debate. That is the real power of discipline. It removes chaos from your decision-making and replaces it with clarity. Instead of constantly asking yourself what you feel like doing, you already know what you are supposed to do, and you do it. This is why discipline always beats motivation in the long run. Motivation might give you a strong start, but discipline is what carries you to the finish line. Every single action you take throughout the day is quietly shaping the direction of your life, even if you don't notice it in the moment. Life doesn't change suddenly. It changes gradually through repetition. What you do daily becomes what you become eventually. This is why habits are so powerful. They are not just small routines, they are the building blocks of your future identity. When you repeatedly choose certain behaviors, your mind starts accepting them as normal, and what feels normal becomes your default way of living. If your daily habits are productive, focused, and intentional, they slowly move you toward growth. If they are careless, distracted, and inconsistent, they slowly pull you away from your potential. The most important part is that these changes don't feel dramatic day by day, which is why many people ignore them. But over weeks, months, and years, they create massive differences in results. A person who reads for 30 minutes every day may not feel different after one day, but after a year, their knowledge and thinking will be significantly sharper than someone who doesn't read at all. A person who trains their body consistently may not see changes immediately, but over time, their strength, energy, and confidence will transform. On the other hand, someone who spends hours daily on distractions may not feel the damage instantly, but slowly their focus, ambition, and drive weaken without them realizing it. This is how life quietly moves in a direction based on repetition. Every habit you repeat is like casting a vote for the type of person you are becoming. Small actions may seem insignificant in isolation. When repeated, they carry massive weight. Waking up late once doesn't change much, but doing it every day affects your energy, productivity, and mindset. Skipping a task once may feel harmless, but repeated avoidance builds a pattern of procrastination. Choosing discipline once doesn't transform your life instantly, but choosing it consistently builds a strong identity over time. The direction of your life is not decided by one big decision. It is decided by thousands of small decisions that seem minor in the moment, but powerful in accumulation. This is why awareness of your daily habits is so important. If you are not consciously shaping them, they will shape you automatically, and not always in the direction you want. Most people underestimate this process because they expect big, visible changes. But real transformation is often silent at the beginning. It happens in private moments when no one is watching. It happens in how you spend your mornings, how you respond to distractions, how you manage your time, and how you handle discomfort. These small patterns create a structure that your future self will either benefit from or struggle against. If you build strong habits, your future feels easier because you have already trained yourself for consistency and effort. If you build weak habits, your future feels harder because you constantly have to fight against your own patterns. The important realization is that you are always in the process of becoming something. Whether you are intentional about it or not, there is no pause button in personal development. Even when you are not actively trying to improve, your habits are still reinforcing a direction. This means your present routine is either an investment in your future or a withdrawal from it. Once you understand this, even simple choices start to matter more. How you spend your time today is not just about today, it is a reflection of the life you are building tomorrow. Excuses quietly become one of the biggest barriers between a person and their growth, not because they are powerful on their own, but because they slowly weaken accountability. Every time you justify a missed action, a delayed task, or a broken promise to yourself, you reduce your sense of control over your own life. At first, excuses feel harmless. They sound reasonable in the moment, and they even provide temporary relief. When you are tired, stressed, or unmotivated, an excuse can make you feel better about avoiding something difficult. But that comfort comes at a cost. Over time, excuses train your mind to avoid responsibility instead of facing it. They create a pattern where external conditions are always blamed and personal control is always reduced. This is how people slowly begin to feel stuck, even when opportunities are still available to them. The reality is that responsibility and excuses cannot exist together in a strong mindset. The more you shift responsibility away from yourself, the less power you feel over your own outcomes. You start believing that your success depends on timing, luck, circumstances, or other people. This mindset removes urgency and weakens effort. If you believe something is outside your control, you stop trying as hard as you should. That is how excuses limit potential without directly stopping action. They simply reduce the quality and consistency of effort. On the other hand, responsibility brings clarity. When you accept that your actions matter more than your conditions, your focus shifts immediately. Instead of looking for reasons why something cannot be done, you start looking for ways it can be done. This mental shift is powerful because it puts you back in control of your direction. You stop reacting passively to life and start responding actively to it. Responsibility forces honesty. It makes you look at your habits, your decisions, and your effort without hiding behind external reasons. That honesty might feel uncomfortable at first, but it is necessary for growth. Without it, there is no real improvement, only temporary motivation that fades quickly. People who consistently take responsibility tend to progress faster, not because their lives are easier, but because they remove unnecessary mental barriers. They do not waste energy defending their inaction. They invest energy in correcting it. This creates momentum. Each responsible action strengthens confidence because it proves to the mind that effort leads to results. Over time, this builds a strong internal belief that change is possible through personal effort. Excuses, in contrast, slowly erode that belief. When you repeatedly tell yourself that something didn't happen because of external factors, your brain starts accepting that narrative. Eventually, even when opportunities exist, you may not fully act on them because your mindset has been conditioned to expect limitation rather than possibility. Responsibility also improves discipline because it removes negotiation. When you accept ownership of your goals, you stop debating whether or not you feel like doing something. You simply do what needs to be done because you understand the cost of delay. This removes emotional interference from decision-making and replaces it with clarity and direction. Excuses create delay, and delay becomes habit. Responsibility creates action, and action becomes progress. The difference between the two is not just mental, it becomes visible in results over time. People who avoid excuses tend to build stronger routines, better focus, and greater consistency because they are not constantly justifying inconsistency. Instead, they are correcting it. This creates a feedback loop where effort leads to improvement and improvement reinforces effort. Ultimately, the shift from excuses to responsibility is not about being harsh on yourself. It is about reclaiming control It is about understanding that while you cannot control everything in life, you can always control your response. And that response determines whether you stay stuck in the same cycle or move forward into growth. The most important growth in a person's life often happens in moments that feel uncomfortable, inconvenient, and emotionally difficult. It is easy to move forward when everything feels smooth, when energy is high, and when motivation is naturally present. But real life is not built on those moments. Real progress is created in situations where you are not at your best, where your mind resists effort, and where comfort is pulling you in the opposite direction of growth. On those days, the difference between someone who improves and someone who stays the same is not talent, intelligence, or opportunity. It is the decision to continue showing up despite discomfort. Weakness does not appear suddenly. It develops slowly through repeated avoidance. Every time a person chooses comfort instead of effort, even in small ways, they reinforce a pattern of resistance toward growth. It may seem insignificant in the moment, but over time it builds a habit of stopping when things feel hard. This is why the hardest days are the most important. They reveal whether a person is guided by discipline or by emotion. Emotion always prefers ease. It looks for shortcuts, delays, and justification. Discipline, however, behaves differently. It does not wait for perfect conditions. It acts regardless of how uncomfortable the situation feels. The real test of character is not how someone performs when they are motivated, but how they behave when motivation is completely absent. On those low-energy days, every decision becomes meaningful. Choosing effort in those moments builds inner strength that cannot be created during easy times. It trains the mind to function beyond feelings. Over time, this creates resilience, the ability to keep going even when circumstances are not favorable. Resilience is not built through inspiration. It is built through repetition under pressure. When someone pushes through fatigue, distraction, or emotional resistance, they expand their capacity for discipline. Each small act of persistence on a difficult day strengthens their ability to handle future challenges. On the other hand, giving in to comfort on those same days reinforces dependence on feelings. It teaches the mind that effort is optional when things are not ideal. This creates inconsistency, and inconsistency leads to stagnation. Growth requires continuity, and continuity is only possible when effort is not dependent on mood. The uncomfortable moments in life are not obstacles to success. They are the training ground for it. They expose weaknesses that are invisible during easy times. They show where discipline is lacking, where habits are fragile, and where excuses still have influence. Instead of avoiding these moments, they should be used as opportunities to strengthen commitment. Each time you act despite discomfort, you weaken the control that resistance has over you. Over time, what once felt difficult begins to feel normal. This is how strength is built gradually. It is not created through one powerful action, but through repeated decisions in small, difficult moments. People often underestimate how important these moments are because there is no immediate reward. There is no applause, no recognition, and sometimes no visible progress. But internally, something important is changing. The mind is learning that action does not depend on comfort. It learns that progress continues even when conditions are not ideal. This lesson becomes the foundation of long-term success. Eventually, a person who consistently chooses effort on difficult days becomes mentally stronger than someone who only performs when conditions are perfect. This strength is not loud or obvious, but it is powerful. It shows in consistency, in reliability, and in the ability to keep going when others stop. The hardest days do not define failure, they define transformation. They decide whether a person remains dependent on comfort or becomes capable of overcoming it. Consistency is one of the most powerful forces behind real success, yet it is also one of the most underestimated. People often focus on big moments, sudden breakthroughs, or dramatic changes. But in reality, lasting progress is almost never created that way. It is built slowly, through repeated actions that may seem small and ordinary at first. What makes consistency powerful is not the intensity of a single effort, but the accumulation of effort over time. When you repeat the same positive actions every day, even in simple forms, they begin to shape your abilities, your mindset, and eventually your identity. A person who practices a skill daily, even for a short time, will naturally improve far more than someone who practices occasionally with high intensity but no regularity. This is because the mind and body respond more effectively to repetition than to random bursts of effort. Consistency creates rhythm, and rhythm creates stability. Once stability is formed, progress becomes easier because you are no longer starting from zero each time. Instead, you are building on what already exists. This is where transformation begins to happen quietly. At first, the changes may feel invisible. You do not see immediate results, and this is where many people lose patience. They expect fast outcomes from slow processes, and when those expectations are not met, they stop. But consistency requires a different mindset. It requires trusting that small efforts repeated over time will eventually produce visible results. It is similar to planting something in soil. You do not see growth immediately after planting, but that does not mean nothing is happening. Beneath the surface, roots are forming, strength is developing, and preparation for growth is taking place. In the same way, consistent effort builds unseen progress long before visible results appear. The challenge is that consistency demands patience, and patience is often difficult when motivation is low. There will be days when progress feels slow, when energy is lacking, and when the temptation to skip effort feels strong. This is where consistency becomes a test of character. It separates those who rely on emotion from those who rely on commitment. Emotion changes constantly, but commitment remains steady. A committed person continues even when they do not feel like it because they understand that skipping one day often leads to skipping more. And those small gaps in effort eventually become patterns of inconsistency. On the other hand, maintaining daily action, even at a basic level, preserves momentum. Momentum is extremely valuable because it reduces resistance. When something becomes part of your routine, it no longer feels like a struggle to start. It becomes natural, almost automatic. This is how strong habits are formed. Consistency transforms effort into habit, and habit removes the need for constant decision-making. Instead of debating whether to act or not, you simply follow the pattern you have already built. Over time, this creates a powerful sense of discipline without constant internal conflict. Another important aspect of consistency is identity. What you repeatedly do eventually becomes who you believe you are. If you consistently act with discipline, you begin to see yourself as a disciplined person. If you consistently avoid effort, you begin to see yourself as someone who struggles with discipline. Identity is not formed by words or intentions alone, but by repeated behavior. This is why consistency is not just about achieving goals. It is about shaping self-perception. When your actions align with your goals every day, even in small ways, you gradually build confidence in your ability to succeed. That confidence becomes self-reinforcing, making it easier to continue the behavior. In contrast, inconsistency creates doubt. Each time you break your own pattern, you weaken trust in yourself. Over time, this makes it harder to stay committed because your actions no longer support your intentions. Consistency builds trust within yourself, and that trust becomes the foundation of long-term success. It may not feel dramatic in the beginning, but its impact grows stronger with time. What starts as small daily effort eventually becomes the reason for major life changes. Every decision you make today is quietly shaping the direction of your future, even when it does not feel significant in the moment. Most people tend to think of the future as something distant, something that will be dealt with later when the right time arrives. But the truth is that the future is not created later. It is being created right now through your current actions, habits, and choices. There is a direct connection between what you do today and what your life becomes tomorrow. Even the smallest decisions, when repeated over time, accumulate into major outcomes. A single day of effort or neglect may not seem important, but life is not built on single days. It is built on patterns. When you repeatedly choose productive actions, you are quietly investing in a stronger version of your future. When you repeatedly choose distractions, delays, or avoidance, you are also investing, but in a different direction. The future responds to what you consistently give it, not what you occasionally intend. This is why waiting for someday is one of the most dangerous habits a person can develop. Someday does not exist on its own. It is always shaped by today. If you delay action today, you are not just postponing effort, you are shaping a future where delay becomes normal. If you take action today, even in a small way, you are building a future where progress becomes natural. The difference between success and regret is rarely a single big moment. It is the result of repeated daily choices that either move you forward or keep you stuck. Many people underestimate this because the effects are not immediate. You do not see the consequences of your decisions instantly, which creates the illusion that they are not important. But time reveals everything. What seems small today becomes significant when repeated over months and years. This is why awareness of your present actions is so critical. Every hour you spend, every habit you follow, and every decision you make is either aligning with your future goals or moving away from them. There is no neutral position. Even inaction is a decision and it carries consequences. If you consistently choose comfort over effort, you are training your future self to avoid difficulty. If you consistently choose effort over comfort, you are training your future self to handle challenges with strength. The future version of you is not separate from who you are now. It is a direct continuation of your current patterns. This means that your future is not something that happens to you. It is something you actively create through repetition. The important realization is that time alone does not improve life. Time combined with intentional action does. Two people can experience the same amount of time, but their lives can become completely different depending on how they use it. One person may use their days with discipline, focus, and purpose, gradually building skills, knowledge, and stability. Another person may allow their days to pass with distraction and inconsistency, slowly drifting away from their potential. Both are living through time, but only one is building a meaningful future. This shows that the power is not in time itself, but in how you choose to use it. The decisions you make today are like instructions being sent to your future. They determine what kind of life you are preparing for without you even realizing. This is why it is so important to treat each day with awareness. Not every decision needs to be perfect, but it needs to be intentional. Over time, intention creates direction, and direction becomes destiny. When you finally look back, you will realize that your future was not decided in one moment, but in countless small choices that you made when you thought they didn't matter. And in the end, your life becomes the sum of what you chose when no one was watching, what you did when it was easier not to, and how you treated your time when you thought you had plenty of it. The future does not suddenly arrive. It quietly forms from every decision you make today, until one day it stands in front of you as the life you built or the life you delayed. Because your life will either respond to your discipline or your regrets will respond to your delay.